Well, welcome and thank you so much for joining us here today for another episode of GPS for Your Business. Today's episode, we're going to talk about key metrics and measurements, and we're going to bring on in a minute your coach for today's class. That's Mike Nannini, and I am Dr. Randi Ross. Let me tell you a little bit about Mike Nannini, just in case you don't know who he is. Mike is and I'm going to add in the word here, award-winning business coach. Mike's the owner of FocalPoint Business Performance of Central New Jersey. He brings 2 decades of executive management experience to this process, and he really brings a clear, concise, and I can tell you very much so, an easy to understand approach, and it's all founded in this FocalPoint's proven system. We all talk about systems. Mike believes systems run businesses and people run those systems. Well, hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Hi, Randy. How are you? It's great to be with you.
I am doing great. Well, today, as we mentioned, we are going to be talking about key metrics and measurements. One of the things that I know that we also wanted to mention for our viewers is that we use the word, business, but that applies to, might be a practice if you're a healthcare provider. We might use the word client, but understand this is all interchangeable with the words customers, clients, patients, whatever word applies to you. It's all the same information. The terminology specifically for your industry just might be a little different. So, Mike, let's talk about what are metrics? And I actually like this. And since I've come to understand this as a result of working with you, I've really come to appreciate it. So if you could really explain, what are metrics? What are some other terminologies that people might be using in their business that also mean metrics?
So thanks, Randy. It's just like we talked about, we use clients in business, and you can exchange that with customers, companies, patients, practice, what have you. What's important is that you don't get stuck on the terminology. The systems that I use apply to every business, regardless of what type of business you're in. And that same philosophy applies to what we call metrics and measurement. So some people refer to them as stats. Some people refer to them as data. It's the same thing. Really, what it comes down to is what are the key things that you look at to know both the performance of your business and the health of your business.
And Mike, what I think is interesting, and I think, and for those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Randi Ross. You didn't get to see me a second ago because we had our screen share on. But I was in another life. I was a chiropractor, and we did use a lot of stats. But I think we more just looked at them and saw did they go up or down, but didn't really use them in the way that you teach, which is what I really like. And so, first of all, let's talk about how do people know what the right stats are for their business?
Yeah, so that's a tough question to answer specifically, because it really does vary by owner, by the type of business they have, by what their goals are, and by, frankly, what's important to them. There is no silver bullet for this. There are some standard and pretty universally used things like revenue, expenses, profit, margin, and others are more specific to the things that I mentioned above. The key to choosing metrics, and there really should be no more than 5 to 7 of them to start, is they have to be clear and they have to be able to be tracked and measured. Without those 2 things, it's impossible to know your business's health. So it's very difficult to say these are the right ones, everyone should use them, because frankly, it's just not that easy. It depends on what's important to each individual business owner.
And also, and this is something that you've made me really understand, and I just kind of mentioned that a second ago, is I think that we use a stat just to look at what I might refer to as the end game. What are the results of that week, that month, that quarter? But you've really explained to me and taught me that that's not the proper way to really utilize what a stat does for you.
Right, that's right. And it's interesting, Randy, there's really 2 ends of the spectrum here. I've been involved in companies that suffer from what I call paralysis by analysis, where they just have reams and reams and reams of data, and it's just numbers on a page, and it's difficult to manage that way. And it's just a hard thing for companies to live by. The flip side of that is companies that don't really use any data or use any information to help improve what it is they're trying to do. So what I like to do is try to find people a happy medium, right? And so we talked about 5 to 7 metrics, and in those 5 to 7 things, it's really a combination of what I call results, which is a performance in a result, right? And so like revenue. Most small business owners that I talk to tell me that revenue, sales, or profit is one of their key metrics. That's great. Frankly, some folks don't even think about that. So those owners are off to a great start. One of the things that we'll talk about in this session is the difference between results and performance. See, results are important for many reasons, but performance indicators are where the results are made. So it's common to hear someone say, I need to increase my revenue. In fact, many of you watching this today may be thinking the same thing. What's truly important, and the best way to increase revenue, is to focus on how you produce it. Meaning, how do you acquire clients? How much money are you making from each of your clients? How many of them are repeat clients? What other products and services can you offer that you aren't today? And how satisfied are your clients? These are a first of a long list of things to be considered when talking about improving the other areas of your business. See, I can sit here and I can say that I'm going to run a marathon. That's great, but I'm not a runner, and I don't think I've ever run more than 2 or 3 miles at one time. So what do I need? I need a plan, and I need some checkpoints to get me to 26.2 miles, which is the result that I want. You need the same for your business.
And Mike, I know some of this to me sounds a little familiar to a previous episode that we had when we talked about strategic planning. So for those of you that are watching that maybe didn't get a chance to see that episode, go ahead and go back and watch that, because you'll see how it'll tie into a little bit about what Mike's talking about. So that's we just wanted to let you know that additional information is available. Yep. So Mike, I know that you talk about, and this is the way you've explained it to me, that when we used to look at how many patient visits, that was the criteria that we use. How much money do we make off of each patient? I'll tell you an interesting stat that I always used to ask people, other doctors. I say, do you know how much a patient, in this case, or a customer, do you know how much it costs you to have that person in your office? And interestingly enough, most business owners have no clue about that. So they think, oh, well, if I get $50 a visit or $50 for an item, a product, that's my profit. No, there's a cost to you to actually have that patient or customer in your business. So I think there's that a lot of people also, even when they use stats, they often don't even evaluate them properly.
Yeah, no, that's common. And it's something that I see a lot. And again, it gets back to really thinking about your business and what it is you want to accomplish. And again, you mentioned how this ties into the strategic planning piece. And it certainly does, because you have to go through that strategic planning process before you can talk about your goals. And your goals are where really your key metrics and measurement come into place. So again, avoiding paralysis by analysis and finding that happy medium between that and not having really any information or any data is the sweet spot. And that's why I like to say really 5 to 7 metrics, especially for businesses that don't have a lot of experience doing this. Let's find the 5 to 7 that are most important. And then from there, once we get a good handle on them, we can start to boil it down and get to some of the stuff that will be really, really impactful to improving those metrics.
I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here, Mike. I know this might be a little bit difficult because, we have viewers that are from all different walks of business. But if you had to tell me, and even I understand, and everyone listening understands it's going to be kind of generic-y information, what are you said 5 numbers. What are the 5 things as far as a measurement, a metric, a stat that every single business owner should be looking at?
Again, that's difficult. It varies based on the business, but I'll tell you from the beginning standpoint, the things that we'll talk about, right? There's really only 3 ways that your business can make more money. And for the sake of this discussion, let's just say that all of you watching out there want to make more money as the end result of your business. Some of you do, some of you don't, and that's fine. So if you want to make more money in your business, there's three ways you can do it. It's very simple. You can either find more clients, you can make more money off the clients that you have, or you can reduce your expenses. So if you just take that and you boil it down a little bit and you say, okay, well, I can either find more clients. So what are some metrics that I need to pay attention to there? One is, how many clients am I talking to? Potential clients or potential patients or potential customers am I talking to on a regular basis? That could be one metric. I see 10 a day. I see 10 a week. I see 10 a month. Depending on what your business is, it will vary. And then from there, you get to what I like to call a conversion rate. So of those 10 folks that you're talking to on a regular basis, how many of them are becoming clients? What's your conversion rate? If you're talking to 10 and you're converting 2, well, then you're at a 20% conversion rate. So that becomes a metric. And then you get into making more money from the clients that you have. So things like, how many of your clients or customers or patients are doing business with you repeatedly? How many of them come back over time? And then how much money are you making off of each of their visits, right? So visits per period, whether it's month or year, however you want to measure it. And then how much revenue are you producing off of those visits? And what can you do? What buttons do you have, if any, to push to do that? It's not just about increasing the cost of your services. It's about thinking about, what are the other things that I can add to what I already offer that deliver some value to my customers, my patients, my clients, and how can I go ahead and integrate that into my suite of products? So there's 4. And then the 5th one is really expenses. What are your expenses? What are your expenses as a percentage of your overall revenue? And what levers do you have to push there? So those are really sort of the 5 that you start with in a simple way, and then you can take it from there to get to the several levels below that and think about what are the different buttons that you can push to positively impact them.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to impress you now when you're talking about how to make more money off of the current clients or patients you have. Isn't that called increasing your marginal net worth?
Yes.
So there's a big $10 word that may or may not mean something to someone, but it's
there you go.
Funny when people teach you something, how every now and then those things just drill into your head.
Yeah, you must have a good coach.
I must, that definitely would explain that away. So, Mike, I'm going to actually, bring up a few of the things that you just, that you were just talking about on a slide. So, kind of share with us while I do that. Share with us I know one of the things that you and I have even talked about is, when people think they know their business, so they don't feel that this is something that would be of value to them.
Yeah, so I hear that a lot. When I hear it, I'll ask, really, what are the metrics that they're using? Tell me about what are the key things that you look at to know the health and the performance of your business. How often are you reviewing them? Do you do it weekly? Do you do it monthly? Do you know it quarterly? What are the goals that you have against those key data points? How have they improved over the last 12 months? So that's really the things that we talk about. I can tell you this from my experience, that very, very few people can actually answer that question. Look, it's understandable for a small business owner. I'm one myself. It's very hard to do this sometimes, but it's important that you make the time. But it's understandable for all of us to think that we live and breathe our business every day. So we know how healthy it is and we know how it's performing. I like to think about that as people who don't go to the doctor. They wake up in the morning, they feel relatively okay, they think that they're healthy, but unfortunately, it's not that simple. You need to know your cholesterol levels. You need to get your blood pressure checked. You need to get your heart looked at, and on and on and on. So your business is really no different. It's a living, breathing enterprise, and you should treat it as one.
I think that's a great point. And for those of you that are looking at your screen, we made a few bullet points as Mike went along. You can feel free to replay this and, break apart each piece so that you can start applying these elements of GPSing your business, as soon as possible to start getting results. I also know, Mike, that you have you'd like to offer an evaluation for those people that have joined us. If you just want to tell us about that for a second, and people can either click on their screen, depending upon how they're viewing this, or it'll be in a link below. It actually drives you to a page where it says click here to get started. And Mike can tell you a little bit about the assessment that he's has for you.
Yeah, so that it's a quick assessment. It should take you no longer than 5 minutes to complete. It's about 20 questions. There's everything from yes and no answers to drop down choices, rating your things, rating yourself and your business on different key areas. And if you go ahead and take that and submit it, I'll review it, and you and I can have a conversation about quick ways and maybe some easy things that you can do to improve your business. It's that simple. So go ahead and click on that link and take the survey.
Absolutely. Yeah, to be some great information that comes your way from Mike. Well, this concludes another episode of GPS for Your Business. Today we talked about key metrics and measurements. I am Dr. Randi Ross, along with your host, Mike Nannini. We thank you so much for joining us here today. We hope you got some great takeaways for your business, and we'll see you on the next episode.